In one of the recent episodes of the Gills Arenas podcast, there was a lot of conversations going about the MVP list and how Nikola Jokic was number one and Giannis was number two. And on that panel, Gilbert Arenas was talking about, well, winning should matter, that the voters continue to change their criteria, and somehow Jokic is getting all types of bias towards him for MVP. And I'm thinking to myself, brother, you have to look at this from a contextual perspective. Every year is going to be different because ever since 2016 or 2016-2017 season with Westbrook, he was the second guy ever to average a triple-double. And in that season, the OKC Thunder was not that good of a roster. He carried that team to a 6th seed. And you look at it from that perspective, you're going, okay, Westbrook was phenomenal. He just put up numbers you just could not ignore. And then Gilbert Arenas went on to say, well, Westbrook was snubbed 3 times for just putting up stats. They gave him an MVP for his stats. Like, it just doesn't make sense with this type of logic going on. Because if you break down Jokic's season, yes, the Nuggets are 13-10. They're not a top 4 team in the Western Conference. But the dude is a center averaging a triple-double on a roster that isn't that good. They lost Bruce Brown in 2023. Caldwell Pope walked this season. And now the spacing out there with Denver, I mean, it's atrocious. Jamal Murray isn't reliable night in and night out as their number 2 option. Yet Jokic continues to put up amazing numbers. He's having one of the greatest peak seasons I've ever seen from a player. Like, it's been incredible to watch. But going back to the MVP award, sometimes you just have other guys out there that are just going to be that much better. I love Jason Tatum. But at the same time, I can acknowledge the fact that Giannis has improved his mid-range game. Jokic is at a different stratosphere. He's the best player in the NBA, and it's not even close right now. And that's perfectly okay. If you want to argue Tatum and SGA, I can do that all day long. I have no problem with that discussion. However, at the same time, those 2 guys are separating themselves from the pack. Luka's shooting splits are down, but when you're talking about winning, yes, it does factor in, but again, when you're putting up these type of numbers and dominance, it's hard to ignore what's going on. And you're talking about the Denver Nuggets at 13-10. You also mentioned the Bucks, where they're not doing that well. Right now, I think they're 13-11. They've been turning things around now. I know they've been playing easier opponents, but I got to give them credit for turning the season around because it wasn't looking too good in Milwaukee. Giannis, with his mid-range improvement, deserves a ton of credit and attention right now. But to just dismiss what they're doing and acting like they don't deserve recognition for MVP is ludicrous. We've seen great players in the past who had unbelievable seasons like Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade. They never won an MVP. Why? Because they had to deal with guys like Kobe, LeBron James, and so on and so forth, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. So, of course, you're going to get overshadowed by guys who are putting up amazing numbers and stats. And I understand that winning does matter, but we just saw from Russell Westbrook that you can win an MVP and still not be at the top of your conference if you're putting up just historical numbers. And that's what's going on with Jokic. When he's off the court, the offense plummets. They're a lottery team. So we just can't ignore those things and act like Jokic does not deserve this type of recognition. You can hate it all you want. You can dislike it if you want. But when you're this good as a basketball player, and let's just say the Nuggets find a way to be a top 6 team in the Western Conference, he is going to win the MVP. You might not like it, but it's going to happen. Look at a guy like Jerry West in the 1970s. He didn't win MVP because he had to deal with a guy like Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. So I just don't understand the logic here because at the same time, these guys just win basketball games and they continue to just put up these incredible stats. So if you want to blame someone, talk about Russell Westbrook and how he got that MVP and how that changed the course of how we look at an MVP caliber player. Sure, if Tatum was in the 2010s, averaging 28, getting his 9 rebounds a night and 5-6 assists, yeah, he probably would win MVP. But if he's going up against a guy like LeBron James in 2016, or Steph Curry, because he won the MVP that year, yikes, you're not winning that year because Steph Curry was just unreal that season. So, and they won 73 games. That has to matter too, right? So I just don't get the logic here because we're going to talk about winning. Yes, I get it. But at the same time, Jokic is just on a different level. He's playing unbelievable. He's not just, in the post all the time. He's at the mid-range shooting his shots. He's attempting 4 3-pointers a night. I know he's shooting at a 50% clip. I'm sure that will come down to maybe 35, 38%. But, man, if he hits like 40% from 3 the rest of the season, And he's got the Nuggets, like I said, as a top 6 team in the West. He's going to win it again. You can complain about the winning all day long, but when you're putting up like 32 points a night, you're getting your 14 rebounds, your 10 assists, it's hard to ignore. Or like a guy like Giannis, expecting like these two teams to be like a top, that's what they were talking about too. Like these guys should be top in their conference. When we know the Bucks don't have a good defense, they lack perimeter, defenders, and they're an old roster. And you're expecting this team to just overcome the Knicks, the Cavs, the Celtics, the Magic. Like it's just so dumb to me why we have these conversations going on. And in the Nuggets, they lost Bruce Brown in 2023. They lost Caldwell Pope this offseason. The Thunder added Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. Of course, the Thunder are going to be the best team in the West. They were number one last year. The Nuggets were struggling to edge out the Timberwolves for home court advantage in the second round. They still lost to the Timberwolves. So this season, you're looking at the landscape of the NBA. I had the Thunder number 1. I have Dallas number 2. I have, I did have the Timberwolves number 3. It's not looking good right now, but the Rockets look better. These other teams that are coming up, they're overpassing Denver because Denver's not that good because they lack players that can contribute on a night-to-night basis, and you can't just put that all on Jokic. If he's got this team in the playoffs, that should count for something, right? And you're putting up unbelievable numbers. Yeah, he's going to get the nod right now because we've seen this happen in the past where a guy like Westbrook won the MVP. So again, I don't understand why we don't use context to these situations and not say like, okay, this is why Jokic is winning. Yes, winning is also very important. But we're in a league now where if you're putting up unbelievable stats and yes, you're barely getting the playoffs, but you're a sole reason why they're winning basketball games, then you're going to get more recognition. That's just how it goes now. You don't like it? I don't know what to tell you. But Jokic has been proven time and time again. Like when it comes to Tatum, it's unfortunate he might not ever win MVP because he's competing with guys like Giannis, Embiid, Jokic. These guys are putting up just really, really good numbers. And Tatum is not a bad basketball player. He's just competing with some of the best guys out there. Like SGA might fall victim to this as well, where he might not win an MVP anytime soon because of the competition he has in front of him. And when Wemby gets better, he's got to deal with that and just the things he does in the basketball court. So again, I just think we have to be careful with these conversations and not just say, oh, well, you're supposed to win basketball games. That makes you MVP. No, there's more to it now. We look at it from a different perspective. We're not just looking at, okay, yeah, you won 57 games, but you got one of the best rosters in the NBA. Or we look at a guy like Nikola Jokic, who's just carrying that team day in and day out, or Giannis, who's improved his mid-range shooting and is averaging like 32 points a night. Dude's just been cooking this year. And again, the fact he's able to hit a consistent jump shot, we've been clamoring for that for a while, and he's doing it now. So I don't know what to expect next. I think if I had a vote, I think SGA should get it. But I understand why Jokic will pull it out because of the numbers he's putting up. And that's fine. It's not the end of the world. You're just dealing with historical basketball players. We've seen this past with Dwayne Wade or Chris Paul. They had some really good seasons. They didn't win MVP. We've seen this from Jerry West's era. And the Clyde Drexlers, Dominic Wilkins, where they had to deal with Magic Johnson. They had to deal with Michael Jordan. Charles Barkley got MVP. Hakeem Olajuwon got one. So it's tough to compete with that type of player when they're just at the top of the food chain and they're just, they got all this momentum and the stats are just inflating and they're just historical players. It's just hard to overcome that and get fans on your side to vote for you as an MVP candidate. And again, Tatum's been great, but you got guys in the league that are just a little bit better, and that's perfectly okay. Yes, you're on the best basketball team. Just go win Finals MVP. I mean, we saw this in 2015 where there was consideration for LeBron maybe winning the award. Now, he didn't because the Cavs lost, but they gave it to Andre Iguodala instead of Steph Curry because of the impact he had when they inserted him into the starting lineup after they went down 2-1. So things will change. Voters are not the same every year either. And I just want to see more credit given to Jokic because he's been so good for just really the past 4 or 5 seasons. I'm sure I know he was good before, but like his prime years, bro, like dude can probably do this for another 4 or 5 seasons. And you're like, yeah, this dude's out of his world. Hopefully he can get a better roster. And then Giannis, like getting a mid-range shot, I think that's going to extend his career out further because when you're relying on your athleticism, it does start to wane down as you get older in age. And Giannis is heading that direction. And you can't rely on just, your dunking ability, your finish at the rim all the time if you're losing athleticism. So for him to have that mid-range shot down, if you can keep that up, that's going to help Giannis in the future as well. But we got to have these conversations and have the right perspectives and the right context and understand that the reason why these guys are getting votes, because look at the numbers, the adversity they're dealing with. That's why they're ahead of the pack. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what Gilbert Arenas and the panel had to say about the MVP list. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.